Hello, welcome to this week's How's the Market, Pensacola. It is January 27th, 2020, and if you have been on any social media at all in the last 24 hours, you know that we just lost an NBA legend yesterday. If you haven't been on anywhere, if you've been under a rock or out in a cave somewhere, and you don't know, we lost the great Kobe Bryant at 41 years old yesterday. He passed away in a helicopter crash. And unfortunately, his 13-year-old daughter was with him. It was a very sad news. I never got the opportunity to actually watch him play live. Loved watching him play on television. Played basketball in high school, so I loved the game. I've played rec leagues even since then. Always loved the game and always loved watching him play and how he elevated the game. I know he had some issues in the past, but it looks like he was working through those. And he was entering the second part of his life at 41 years old. That is just way too young to be leaving us. So, lesson for that is make sure you hug the ones you love, because you never know when it's your number. I'm not going to make it somber, though. We are going to try and shift gears, and instead of talking about the late, great Kobe Bryant, we're going to talk about real estate. Let's go.
I'm a man on a mission.
My mission is to help people break through all the noise out there and
Don't need no permission.
I want to help you get to actual truth. Don't you just want the truth?
All right, so we're switching gears. From that somber moment to begin with, I did want to say thank you to Yahoo Finance. If you look this past weekend, Friday evening, it looks like they published an article, said top 6 real estate agents to watch in 2020. You can go search Yahoo Finance for that particular article. And as you can see, out of 6, I'm actually number 6. This was just a screenshot from what I did, but I wanted to thank Yahoo Finance for that. And part of that reason is because of this show that they said we are starting to get viewers and that this information is just out there for folks. So they said this is one of the people that you need to watch in 2020. So thank you, Yahoo, for the shout out. I appreciate it. All right. If you've never watched this show, you don't know. And if you have, you do know that I always start the show off with this slide right here because it gives us a good baseline. If you have between 6 and 7 months worth of inventory, it is considered a neutral market. If you have greater than 7 months, it's considered a buyer's market. Less than 6 months is considered a seller's market. What the slide doesn't say, greater than 9, hyper buyer's market. Less than 3, hyper seller's market. We have all of those across the area. So if somebody asks, how's the market? I can't answer the question until I know what price point we're talking about. I'm going to prove my point right now. We're going to start, we're going to start in Escambia County. And as the last couple of weeks, although we're starting to see this creep up some, 250 to 300,000. Everything under 300,000 is actually considered a hyper seller's market. It's under 3 months inventory, but that 250 to 300 has actually grown some. So is the 2 to 250. I'm seeing some inventory grow there. I like to see that. The 100 to 150 still at a month. We don't have a whole lot there. The 50 to 100 has grown some. All right, but everything under 300,000 is still considered a hyper seller's market. Everything under $500,000 is still considered a seller's market. There is a difference when you market something as a seller, if it's a hyper seller's or a seller's. You can push the price slightly if it's a seller's. You can push it a little more aggressively if it's a hyper seller's. If you're a buyer in either one of those markets, you need to understand when you go to make the offer, traditionally, especially if it just came on the market, you're going to be giving them close to what they're asking. If you look, most of these solds are 98, 99%. Now, 50 to 100 actually drops down. It's funny, 0 to 50 drops down to 85, 86. So there are some mitigating factors because I've had some people watch this show and tell me, you say that I need to offer 95, 96, 97, but that property's been sitting on the market for 322 days. Okay, that's a different ball game. So I was pointed out that, and yes, I make different recommendations based on if something's been sitting for a year. Why has it been sitting a year? Are we trying to buy it as a home, and is there a tenant in there that's got 3 months left on their lease, but it's been listed for 15 months with the tenant in there? Okay, that might be a mitigating factor. We might be able to offer a little less, or it may say, hey, look, we know that they're not going to take much less because the tenant's almost done. So are there exceptions to these? Sure. I just want you to understand this is the market as we sit this week, January 27th of 2020. 500 to 550, 500 to 600 hyper seller's market. It went from, hyper buyer's market. It went from a seller's market to a hyper buyer market. We did not even have a jump to neutral. Okay, so the appetite is not really there for that 500 to 600,000. If that's where you're at, you've got to differentiate. I need to show you how we market differently. Okay. The 600 to 650, there's not a whole lot of inventory, so that's why it's down there in the hyper sellers category. And then anything over 650, well, it looks like 650 to 700 is a sellers, not a hyper sellers, but almost a hyper sellers. And everything over 700 is a hyper sellers. Let's jump over to Santa Rosa County real quick. Look at this. For the first time in weeks, months, actually. I think last time I saw anything but red under $500,000 in Santa Rosa County was before Halloween of last year. I think it was the last time I saw anything under red. So at least we have the 350 to 400. It's still considered a hyper sellers market. Everything under $500,000 is still considered a hyper sellers market, but I do like the fact that we've got an orange here. So we're right there at the sellers market. So that just, what that means is that inventory is rising. The 100 to 150 still 1.3. This one still scares me. The 150 to 200 in Santa Rosa County, this has been steady going down every week. It was at 1.1, then it was 1, then it was 0.9, 0.8, now it's 0.7. This is your first-time homebuyer. This is where they're at. So we do have an inventory crisis continuing in Santa Rosa County. Hopefully that's going to change very, very soon. 500 to 550 is still considered a seller's market, pretty much a hyper seller's market. 550 to 600, buyer's market. So if you got something right at that 550 point, you better understand pricing really well, because one's a buyer's market, one's a seller's market. Understand that very, very well. 550 basically to 650 is a buyer's market, not necessarily a hyper buyer's market, but a buyer's market. Whereas 650 to 700, pretty much a neutral. It skews slightly to the sellers, but pretty much a neutral. And anything 700,000 over in Santa Rosa County is still a hyper buyer's market. There's not as much appetite for that. All right, so that's this week. Again, I wanted to appreciate Yahoo Finance for putting me as one of the top 6 people to follow. If you haven't subscribed to YouTube, Facebook, get over there and do that. Facebook.com/Shane Willis, the Realtor. If you're watching this on YouTube, hit that little subscribe button for me. I appreciate that. I do this every week just so you know the numbers, so you can make good decisions for you and yours. Thanks for watching. Have a great week.
I'm a man on a mission.
My mission is to help people break through all the noise out there, and
Don't need no permission.
I want to help you get to actual truth.
On a mission.
Don't you just want the truth?